You are now watching Mugen TV.
Hey guys, this is MugenLord here, and I'm back again with another video, and this is somewhat a continuation of my DLC increasing a game's longevity, and many of you were pretty much on the fence like I am, and when it comes to this topic. DLC can be a good thing if done right, and I feel as though that DLC, microtransaction, and complete editions have really changed the dynamic of how we view games and how games are designed. So many of you wanted me to talk about microtransaction and its effects on the game industry, but I first want to address the final editions of games, aka the complete or the game of the year editions. Now, the reason why I wanted to address this first is because lately I have been conflicted on whether or not if I should buy a game at launch or simply wait for developers to release their definitive edition later on down the line. Now, being an early adopter of buying games today can be somewhat of a double-edged sword. You know, think about it for a minute. You get the complete experience only to find out that developers will persuade you into purchasing a season pass for its upcoming DLC, only to find out later that the complete edition will release with all of its game content at a cheaper price than the earlier unfinished release game. Now, if you wait for the final version of the game, you are pretty much behind the curve in terms of trying to compete with other players, mainly found in the fighting game genre. Not only that, if there are other interesting titles being released at that time of the complete edition, is it worth it to buy the final edition of that game at that time when there are other titles that's being released as much new and offer a much more complete or better experience than waiting for a much older game? So there are benefits to both sides of this argument. Not buying the game at launch could affect the future of a game in terms of its longevity, DLC, and future sequels, because developers just don't see any justification of continuing on with a franchise that just isn't performing well in terms of sales. So some gamers feel if you don't buy into the game at launch, that it will ruin a potential sequel. Now, I do know that there are gamers out there who will encourage others to purchase a game despite the controversy surrounding it because they just don't want to see the game die before it even launches off store shelves. I'm not saying all launch games aren't justifiable of purchase, but most games today, looking at you, Destiny 2, Street Fighter 5, and now the most DLC heavy game, Final Fantasy 15, make you wonder if it's just worth it to just wait for the complete edition. So I really want to address Final Fantasy 15 Real Edition because it's a perfect example of a game that finally offers the full gaming experience after 2 years of its launch. This game really has early adopters of Final Fantasy 15 boiling right now, and I don't blame them. Hell, I'm one of them. I've waited for this game since conception years ago when it was labeled Final Fantasy 13 Versus. I bought the steel case edition that comes with Final Fantasy 15 Kingsglaive movie, and once I popped the game into my PS4 and began playing, I felt like there were some things missing from the game. Story elements felt missing, and it sucked that I couldn't even control any of my party members but Noctis. So I dropped the game not too long after that, and I pretty much never looked back, but I did still try to stay in the loop in terms of what features that was going to be later added into the game. I found out that a lot of features later added through DLC should have been added in the game since its launch. The individual DLC filled in unexplained plot holes crucial to character and story development, and also early adopters bought into this just to get slapped in the face with the complete edition. This game felt like a crowdfunded beta in order for developers to implement features that should have been added in the game from the start. So I could go in all day on this game or about this topic altogether, but let's talk about the complete editions real quick and its benefits, because they are by far the more superior edition and a bit cheaper than the originally launched product that had less features and content to begin with. Perfect example, Capcom released Resident Evil 7 Gold Edition that added all of the DLC that early adopters bought into, including additional content that early adopters were waiting on. So you can say that early adopters get spited for the sake of grabbing newcomers to a franchise, and the companies are able to resell the same game over again. Or what are we going to do? Is waiting for a complete edition a smart thing to do, or is adopting the game early on is just as important as waiting for a complete edition release? Just like DLC, I'm kind of on the fence on this because not every developer practices this, but it seems like AAA companies practice this more often, and other developers adopt this practice if they see these big companies get away with this. But I want to hear your thoughts on this in the comment section below. Contact me on social media such as Facebook, Twitter. This is MugenLord, and I'm signing off. See you game fiends later.